Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another case study. Welcome, Shay.
Hello, hello. How are we?
It's good to have you, my friend. It's super exciting to get Shay on the channel for this case study because Shay and I go way back, a lot farther than when I started the RSA community, and he's got some insane results. I'll let him, talk on that himself, but at a quick highlight, 2 months of actually being a role. He hit 10K in commissions just last month, which is super exciting. And basically 3 months from starting. So it's an absolutely unreal result. He's had an amazing story, which we'll touch on very briefly as well, because there might be a lot of people that are watching this that have gone through similar and same thing. Whether or not it's the agency stuff, whether or not it's, maybe not being in the right relationship at the right time, all that type of stuff. There's I think there's a lot that a lot of people can relate to with Shay's story. So I kind of want to start all the way back to when we first met, just to give the guys a bit of context.
Yeah.
How do you remember when we first met, or when you first met, or how we even met in the first place in South Sniper?
So let's take it back a step further because that's where we really started to engage, like obviously chat a lot more. But where we actually first engaged was in a circle, NEPQ. That was
Oh,
where
we
we
met in a
actually
circle.
engaged. So that was like way, way, way back. We
Oh,
were both doing that. We were both in that. I obviously followed up with you because I was like, oh, well, there's not many Aussies in this. And then I was like, well, let's get some role plays in. But at that point in time, I was still sort of half in, half out. I think I was like not long before that, I'd hit like a 20K month in my agency. And
mm,
prior to that, the most I'd ever made was like part-time was like 2K a month. So now I had all this money and like I only ever wanted to hit a 10K month. So then once I hit a 20K month, it's like I was always half in, half out from that point because I was just like, oh, like in my mindset, like it was much harder for me to make 2K a month showing up to a job I hated versus like being at home from my home setup, from like the sickest setup you've ever seen, stand up desk, do a couple hours of outreach, take some calls close. Like that was just it was just so easy for me. So like I think from that point, because I only ever wanted to make 10K a month, I was always just half in, half out from that point. So obviously fast forward to, sales sniper. I think there was a down period after where I got comfortable after making that money
mm.
to where I started to coast, started to decline. And then in my mind, I was just like, oh, well, let's just get into sales, right? And because that a lot of that stuff, I've been following like a lot of YouTubers making all this money, closing all this stuff. But that stint only really lasted for like a month, 6 weeks. Because I was like a brokey. I was like a wagey who just wanted to play video games and like try and make like some money on the side. So when I was on Sales Snipe, honestly speaking, I would hit the minimum quota, the minimum KPI, which is like
Do
150
nothing.
DMs, 150 DMs per day. I'd do that as fast as possible, and then I'd just like sit on my ass playing video games for the rest of the day. I'd show up
Mm.
to those. What were they? Do you remember end of day or they start of day meetings? And you'd
End
have
of
to
day
do like set
meetings.
your intent. You'd have to like set your intentions. Have you been congruent? All that sort of stuff. And I was lying through my fucking teeth. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I've been congruent. In reality, I'm about to like 5 minutes away from hopping on like my fucking PlayStation to play some video games.
And
So get through that period.
for full context though, just for people that don't know, what is Sales Sniper?
So Sales Sniper was a sales agency that was run by Matt Ryder. So he essentially was based in Australia. And like, me, you, there's a few other boys like Daniel, they're all a part of that. And essentially, if you were offer owner, like you ran a business and you needed sales reps, you'd go to a company like Sales Sniper and then they place a lot of their people in. And they already had like a lot of pre-existing training and stuff. But I think at the point that we came, they were aggressively scaling. So the operations and stuff were like they were sort of all over the place. Like within the month, I think the a thing with me as well. Yes, I wasn't as dedicated and committed at that point, but I was constantly being moved around. Like I got moved around like 4 or 5 different offers in the space of a month. So what the fuck am I? Do I just like, oh, you just go over there, throw them over there, throw them over there? No, it was just like constantly moving. So then I was
Mm.
just like, oh, well, fuck this thing. Like moving around every week.
And the offers weren't good though. Like in the grand scheme of
Oh,
things,
not
like
at least not the
weren't
ones on
great.
our side of the world. For the
Yeah,
On the
exactly.
Australian side of the world, they weren't that great. No.
Yeah. It was pretty rough going. Like what were the like without saying what the offers were specifically, like what were the types of industries that you were working in?
So
Helpful.
we had sales training, we had like agency scaling. I think there was like some like fitness stuff as well for like a fitness influencer. So all those different industries. Yeah.
And so like what happened to transition from that to your agency? Because I don't even know what happened there either. Like
Mm.
what made you go, yep, all right, this is not what I'm looking for, and then you transition to running a marketing agency again?
Yeah, so I think I just misjudged expectations. Like I thought like, oh, like it's just going to be so easy. I just come in, a couple hours, make 10K a month, like just worry about sales fulfillment. And just at that point in time, I wasn't really that serious. Like I didn't really have much purpose, didn't really have much drive. I was super comfortable. So I think it was just misjudged expectations. And also I was just a little bit annoyed by the fact that I'd been moved around so many times,
Mm,
like changing jobs for 4 or 5 weeks. Because growing up, like it just reminded me of growing up. Like every few months, I'd move to a new town, move to a new city, move to a new school. So it just pissed me off because I was like, oh, what am I doing? Like I'm been moved around this many times. So I can't recall specifically because it's my memories about murky around that timeline. But I did end up going back into the agency. But everything that happened after that was a constant roller coaster. And when I say constant roller coaster, it's like I'd work towards having a good month, have a good month, and then I'd sort of just like just trickle down from there. Go get comfortable because I had some money, and then it was constantly like that up until the start of this year, where I decided to draw
mm.
the line in the sand and get into sales.
Because I mean, for a lot of people, like running your own business is not as easy as it seems. It's like, sure, you can say that, well, I sell a training that teaches people how to get in high ticket sales, and therefore I'm biased, which is totally fair
Mm.
call. From your perspective, like, why is it so different to like you being in sales versus like running your own agency and like a business on your own? Like, what are the key differences there? Because a lot of people advertise that, starting your own business, you have to be running your own business, Andrew Tate, blah, 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 like hustle culture, hustle culture.
Yeah,
I have to run my own business or I'm a broke, you're a wagey. It's like, well,
yeah.
no, that's not true at all. Like, what's your perception on that?
Well, initially I had an ego. I was like, oh, I can
Mm,
never work for anyone else. I have to be a
yep.
business owner. Like, what do I look like, a brokey? I bought into a lot of that, like that messaging out there in the manosphere, and like you got to run your own business, got to do this, got to do that, and I guess where I really enjoy being a sales rep specifically is that after sales, my job stops. You might have to do a couple onboarding tasks to hand it off to customer success, et cetera, et cetera. But I much prefer being a closer because people like, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, but in my experience, like when you're running an agency, like now that I'm external to the agency and I'm not actually in it anymore, resource allocation is very important. When I talk about resource allocation, it's like, okay, I've got 10 hours to work today. Where are those hours getting allocated? Whereas like I was so scrambled, like I'll put 30 minutes there, hour back over here, 20 minutes over here. And you really want to approach it in a structured way, especially in your starting point. And the reality is I never really ran a proper operation. Like, yeah, I had at one point when I ran my cold email agency, I was running it with a business partner. So that was probably like the only proper resource I ever had. Outside of that, it was only ever admin employees. Like I had like a few VAs that would help me out with admin stuff. I think some of them might have helped me out with some media buying and like some outreach. But outside of that, I never had people based in the same country as me, like that were employed, like Australia or US or whatever it was. But the main difference is that agency, you're wearing so many hats. And if you don't have a team behind you, you're going to be hating your life. Sales, it's like if you have a good role, then you're going to be loving your life because one, you can actually close, two, you can actually make good money, and three, you can actually enjoy the stuff outside of sales. Because I know a lot of agency owners, like they just sit behind a computer all day and then This hustle culture, but they didn't really enjoy the fruits. The only people I know enjoying their fruits are the ones that are super early, only signed a couple clients, sort of stress free, or the ones that actually have like an operation producing millions of dollars in profit per year. However, now they have like a proper C-level executive team. And like we can speak personally, like we have obviously a friend in like in our personal circle, inner circle, who is at that point where he has C-level executives, and like
Mm.
he doesn't sit behind a computer all day. He actually enjoys, the finer things in life, and those are the two things I see: the people that are super early, or the people that have been at it for 3, 5 years and now have a proper team. So people in the middle somewhere that are like stressed out their minds, trying to figure out the teams, the operations, and all that. At
I
least
couldn't
based on
agree
what,
more, man.
what I've seen.
I have actual agency PTSD from when I ran that agency because it was a content
Yeah.
agency. So it's like the worst one that you could pick. And you're right. It's like you're juggling all these hats. You're learning all these skills very quickly, which you don't have.
Hmm.
And the only reason I scaled that to the level I did in a short amount of time was just because I knew how to sell.
Yeah.
Like that was it. That's all that I did really. Like the only part of the business I was good at was sales, and then the rest I kind of hired some team and stuff like that. But it was a whirlwind, man. It was just a roller coaster, like you mentioned before. It's just like up, down, revenue months here, there, everywhere. And on top of that, you're stressing out of your eyeballs on like how you're gonna get the next client, how you keep your current clients, getting clients, sales, operational bottlenecks, building the
Hmm.
business. Like there's just so many things to a business that not many people really take into
Yeah.
account. Uh, and I know firsthand from doing that to this for the RSA, it's a totally different story. Whereas like I'd spoken to the guys a couple months ago when I was in Bali. I had a call. I was like, it would be so good just to make 30K a month and not have any like in commissions and not have any other commitments or responsibilities or anything. You just close people and then that's it. That's your cash. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
anybody. You don't have any expenses, things like that. So I can definitely resonate with that. And what was because you have a pretty crazy story, especially up until recently, like down to like not much into your bank account to the reality you have now, which is
Hmm.
insane. What was the biggest catalyst for you shutting down the agency and moving to where you've gone now? Like, do you want to dive a little bit into that of like what happened and where you are now, like the whole story, like living on Jacob's
Yeah.
couch and everything like that?
So the catalyst was that from August of last year, yeah, August of last year, me and the guy that I was partnered up with for my cold email agency made a decision that because we had different visions for what we wanted to do, we made a decision to part ways. However, where I messed up was I didn't have a plan. Like I sort of just like lost all drive, all purpose to really do anything because I was like, oh well, like another failed business. Like what am I doing now type thing. But I never really had a plan for how like the things I'd actually do once I exited. So really August up until December, I went back to like my previous self, just fucking playing, like literally just playing video games, being a brokey, making fuck all money, struggling month to month, like covering rent and all that sort of thing. Like I went back to being a brokey. And then it got to a point where it actually started to create friction in the relationship that I was in. And like we obviously started to have more disagreements. And then it just got to a point where I think one day I just projected really badly because it was like I was obviously in a bad situation because of no one other than my own actions and my own fault. I think we had a pretty big disagreement. And then that led to like conversations of like, look, let's just do ourselves both a favor and then let's split up. However, I think that was like a heated discussion.
Mm,
It was a heated discussion, and then I think like 2 days after that, we had more of like a neutral, calm discussion, and then we essentially said, "Look, here's what we're going to do over the next X amount of time. Let's work to make things better around here." And I made a conscious decision, like, okay, time to draw the line in the sand. And at least at this point in time, I was like considering agency, go all in on agency, but I just couldn't bring myself to like go apply that level, like that effort
yeah,
to agency.
yeah.
So then I reached out to you at that point.
Mm,
I told you like, hey man, like, my shit's in turmoil. I need can you point me in the right direction? I was like, I can pay you, blah 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 blah. And then you're like, oh dude, like remember? He's like, I've got this program. Then you obviously sent over the link via DMs. I paid, you got me into RSA. And then that was sort of where I was off to the races. At this point in time, it was more so like around the start of the year. Yeah,
It
this is
was
more so
January 5th that you joined.
yeah, so it was, yeah, more so around the start of the year that I actually got into this. And yeah, that was the catalyst. Like things were in turmoil in that relationship. And man, I was on a tear, like mentally. When I say like when I was on a tear, I was just like all in, like all chips on black, just like like full action, full commitment towards like making a change. Because I'd been in that relationship for like 7 years. So I was like, well, it makes sense. I think at that time I listened to like some Andy Elliott podcast,
Mm,
and he spoke about like he's like, "Well, you're a man. You've been in a relationship. You're just going to give up on it that quickly." He's like, you've been in with someone for 6.5 years. You think that a man would just give up and just walk away?" He's like, "No." He's like, a man would do everything in his ability to try and save that, and that's what I did for like for the initial 3.5 weeks that followed. I was trying to like, I mean, I think it was even a month. I was trying to like rekindle that energy, that relationship around the house, but it was just like we're just butting heads constantly. It wasn't the same. Like the energy around the house just wasn't the same. And if anything, it was creating resentment between the both of
mm,
us. Like she
yeah.
was pissed off at me because of XYZ. I was pissed off at her because, things were rough around the house. So I was just like, we had a conversation up until that point, and we're just like, look, let's just part ways. Let's just separate, and like we can maybe have a conversation later about what it looks like. Because the thing is, the way that breakup happened, it wasn't like oh, she cheated and then like now the relationship's over, like fuck her, like she's gone and done. Like it was very like compared to my ex-girlfriends, it was
Yeah.
a very mature way to separate. So that's
Mm,
like we obviously just like said, look, it's obviously not working out around here. Let's just go. And then from that point, I was living on the Gold Coast at that time, and we were in the process of moving from the Gold Coast to Brisbane. So essentially, like we moved all our stuff, even though after we broke up, I was still living with her for like 2 weeks. So moved all the stuff from Brisbane. And I was just thinking like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Because like at this point, you got to imagine like, let's just say right, you imagine you're with your right hand man for like 6 years, 7 years. Like
yeah.
everything you make, everything you do, everything you make, every decision you make is made with the idea that you have someone else that's 50-50 with you. Now all
Hmm.
of a sudden, like that's removed. It's just me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the good and the bad thing is that you have someone you can rely on in a relationship. But the bad thing is, and this is where I think I've made a lot of changes recently, is you lose a lot of your independence. Like
Absolutely.
when you're in a relationship constantly, it's like sometimes that they'll just take care of things that you don't even realize they're taking care of. And then when you're just on your own, you're like, holy crap, that person was actually doing a lot. So I think that's what I've developed a lot more is that independence. But anyways, back to the story. I posted in a group chat that Connor's a part of. Like it's basically a group with all of our friends that we know in the online space who will make money. I posted like, "Hey boys, anyone keen to go to Koh Samui or Thailand?" Because in my mind, I'm trying to figure out like where do I go to, where do I set up base? Because at this point in time, I didn't really have much money, so I'm trying to think. In my mind, I'm like, okay, where are some places that are cheap in the world where I can get by on a couple grand a month? Because like I don't really have much. So I commented in that group chat, and then one of my best friends, Jacob, he reached out to me. Oh no, he responded to me. Was like, come to Buenos Aires, which is where I am now, by the way. He come
Mm,
here, and I was like, where is this joint? And I like searched it up. Like, how much are flights? How much are this? Flights ended up being like 2.5 grand, 3 grand to actually get there, and it was like how much? It was like 16 or 18 hour flight. So it was on the other side of the world. And up until this point, I'd actually never looked at Argentina on a map. And I was like, crap, that's really far away.
mm,
I didn't have much money to my name, but I did, however, have like one of the sickest setups. I had like an Omni desk, stand-up desk. I had like a massive monitor arm. I had a 38-inch ultra-wide monitor. I had a PC that I bought for like 6K. I had all these different things, but I didn't really have much money in my bank account. Also had iPhone, like the latest iPhone at that time. So what I did, I listed every single thing of value on Marketplace and sold it for less than half of what like the retail price was. And some of that stuff I definitely ripped myself off. But in my mind, I just wanted to get rid of this stuff so I could get out of here.
Mm.
I even had the iPhone. I can't remember if it was like an iPhone 15 or iPhone 14 Pro. I'd listed that on Facebook Marketplace while I still had it. And I sold it and I teed up a deal later that day to buy another iPhone for $150. I sold that one for like 1100, bought another one for 150. So I was in my mind, I was like, okay, I can profit 950. I can put that towards everything. So that's the state of mind I was in. I was just thinking like all avenues, all things I could sell to make money.
Mm.
Donated 80% of my clothing. I could have sold it individually, but there's just so much clothing. And I was like, I wanted to live out of one suitcase.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to like carry around two, three, because then I planned on moving around every few months. It's just not practical carrying multiple
Expensive.
suitcases. Yeah.
Yeah.
And expensive as well with like the luggage. So I
Mm.
sold all my stuff and now I had all this money in my account. And this is where the reality set in. Because up until this point, I was like excited, excited, excited. And then once I actually had the cash to go over, there's like I hesitated a bit because I was like, shit, like this is really about to happen. Like I've been saying I'm going to do it. Now it's like time to actually do it. There's probably about a 30-minute gap between when I had the money and when I actually bought the ticket. And like I was trying to find every way to like talk myself out of it mentally. But that wasn't me speaking. That was just like, the comfortable version of myself. But I know what I needed. I know what I lacked from like being in that relationship. I needed to find a way to build up my independence again. I needed to be in a. I've always thrived in situations where my back against the wall. Now, there are people operators that I know that they don't need their back against the wall to just smash it. But anything that's been the catalyst for a lot of growth for me has been when my back's against the wall. So I was like, let's just do it. Let's do it. But at that point in time, it was the night before. My friend hits me up and he's like, "Oh, by the way," he's like, "there's this thing called yellow fever over here, and like, people die from it." And this is like literally the night before. So I'm like manically calling all these places, like, oh, what's this? What's this? What's this? Like, can I essentially get this thing so that I don't get
Right.
infected when I go over? I didn't end up getting it, by the way, and I'm fine now, but that was the
Wow.
mindset I was on. And yeah, that's the catalyst that led to me coming over. And I guess like, there's one part that I missed from that story. So just to encapsulate the journey.
Mm.
Jacob, who's a really good friend of mine, like we've helped each other a lot throughout like the past years. He let me crash on his couch for like it was like 2.5 weeks from the moment I got here. When I got here, I had $650 to my name, and I essentially went through down to like my last $5,
Yeah.
and I was still keep in mind I was still selling at this time. By the way, guys, I was on a lead gen offer for an Australian one, and I pretty much made $0 my entire first month. Then when March rolled around, I closed a 12K PIF, so I got a $1,200 commission from that. Then on the other offer I just started, I had closed 60K cash collected, so then I got 6K in commissions from that, and then I just started to build it up from there. But throughout that period, the first 2.5 weeks of me actually getting to Buenos Aires, I was crashing on my mate's couch. And when I closed that 12K PIF, I took that 1200 and went back to zero again because I got my own place, which is where I'm in now, which is
Mm.
3 levels above the couch I was sleeping on.
That's
And
cool.
just to give you a bit of an idea, there's the couch I was sleeping on. There's a couch right there. That was essentially what I was sleeping on at my mate's place. And I was there for 2.5 weeks, but it got to a point where I was just like, my back was so banged up. My sleeping habits were terrible because he drinks like 10, 15 coffees a day. And I was starting to pick that up as a habit. And he sleeps with the light on like a maniac. Like he's just like, oh, he's like, if you can't sleep through light, he's like, that's a skill issue. But like, I like to have like complete darkness. I like my sleeping habits and some of the stuff I picked up. I was just like, man, I need to get my own place. So the moment I had the money, took the 1200, essentially went back to zero and got this place. Now, something I haven't included on my Twitter was that being the good friend that he was, he gave me like I think he gave me like $150. Was like, I know you just spent all your money to actually go ahead and get the place. He's like, go fill your cupboards up, like get some food. So then, like, yeah, I don't know of too many friends that would do that. I mean, I would do that for my friends. I can't speak for other people, but that's what he did for me. Obviously, helped me out a lot. So props to him for actually helping me out. And
Mm.
yeah, that actually gave me like a week runway to get some more money in. And that 60K I collected, by the way, was obviously 6K in commissions. So the offer owner for that second offer, the US one, where they typically have a 1 month cycle for payouts. However, I let them know the situation like, look, I don't have any money, but I've made you guys this. You guys have obviously received that money from like what I've made you. Is there a way where we can have like weekly or bi-weekly payouts for the first month and then move back to a monthly cadence? Then they paid me that, the commissions, and then yeah, we've been sweet ever since.
Sweet ever since. The part that you missed out was that you landed. We won't name who it is, but we're talking one of the OGs in the space. Uh, up there with Sam Ovens and all those other types of guys, all these intimate money guys. Like this guy is a serious, serious top dog. And it was a conversation
Yes.
we had just catching up in general. Because as I've mentioned before, for full context, like I've met Shay before he joined the RSA, and we were just having a chat with himself and Jacob, the guy he talked about before, and it came up that I'd been asked if I knew anybody good in my network, and I was like, oh yeah, I know, like Shay's right here. Oh, that's perfect. And then you went on the interview, you crushed the interview, and then in your first month you made like 10,000 in commissions just from that offer alone,
Yeah.
which
So
was the
10,
insane part.
so based on last month's commissions earnings, I did the math last night just by the skin of my teeth because I was like, I said to my friends like, if I don't do 10K like this month, I'm gay. So I did the math last night,
What
and
a
it turns
motivation! What a
out I'm
motivation!
not. Yeah, it turns out I'm not gay, guys. So I'm actually did $10,050. So thank God.
Thank the Lord. That's hilarious.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a motivation. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, like we're kind of sitting here where just over a month and a half ago, you were down to your last dollars, sleeping on a friend's couch on the other side of the world. Now
Yeah.
to doing 10,000 a month, which is insane. This is an amazing story. I think a lot of people would love to hear that because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have gone through somewhat similar premise, somewhat similar, I guess, story and context. I've had a similar experience as well. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people enjoy hearing that. Have you before, for full context for everyone listening, did you make 10K a month before in high ticket sales?
No, no. I made $0 in high ticket sales through that 5 week period where I was with Sales Sniper.
Did you do any other high ticket sales outside of that?
No, I didn't do high ticket sales. I mean, I had taken sales calls, a lot of sales calls for my agency, but I
Mm.
hadn't done like high ticket remote sales. None of that before. No.
What do you think have been the key differences that you've learned with me? Because you've seen a lot, you've seen what's out there. Like, what do you
Hmm.
think are the key differences that you've learned that has enabled to obviously we know the offer's a big part of it, but what do you feel like have been the biggest differences that you've learned with me rather than what you'd done before that's enabled you to have that massive uptick?
Yeah, so I just think the way, well, one, the sales process is like very little like resistance in the way you actually teach of how to go about selling. Because like a lot of the way that people teach to sell these days, I think is ineffective and it creates a lot of sales pressure and like feels like high pressure, so like boiler room tactics per se. But I guess the biggest difference in how you approach it is, yes, skills are important. You realize skills are important. You give us the tools to hone those skills. You even give us the sessions to hone those skills with the role play training. However, you realize that it's probably less important as opposed to like the networking component. There's
Mm.
people out there who will say like networking is not good, but networking, like I'll just give you. So aside from this, right? So aside from like my closing stuff, I've networked with one of the top guys in the money Twitter space. and now he considers me a friend, and that's because of the personal brand and from networking. And now, like, we actually have some stuff set up between us where I'm making money from a like a relationship that we now have. That stuff's only possible through network. And being reality, I didn't even know if I would have got a leg in that door if I didn't
Mm.
have the personal brand I do on Twitter, or like some of the, he doesn't really know about my YouTube stuff, but you know, personal brand and networking, a lot of that stuff, the way you approach it is way different compared to how everyone else. It's not the freaking Facebook group strategies. It's not the cold DMs. And by the way, you probably, some of you watching this video, the account that I am on, I see you guys DMs. Your DMs are terrible trying to get these roles and like these setter opportunities. Like, so I've maybe seen like one or two good ones, but most of them are just, I'm not sure what programs they're going through, but it's not good.
It's 98% of them. It's like
Yeah.
98% of them. I like to, because like I'm not one ever. I don't really like to talk bad about people specifically or throw shade in any particular direction because it's just not the type of guy that I am.
Hmm.
But the vast majority, man, there are some good guys out there, absolutely, by all means. And I think they're fantastic what they do. But there is very few people in our industry that have a clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, even just a short little snippet there. You'll probably be, I think you mentioned you're going to have a video that's coming out very soon on this topic as well. But
Yeah.
even there's some crazy, crazy stuff that's happening right now where like literally people are being sold the business model of not doing high ticket sales itself and selling it as an affiliate. And that's like the primary way that they sell through things and claiming their income as high from high ticket sales, but doing an affiliate type thing. You've dove more into this situation more than I have. I'm curious
Yeah.
on what your thoughts are on that.
So my issue doesn't lie with the affiliate scheme itself, because I make money through
Mhm.
affiliates, by the way. Like, I'm making
Yeah,
some money through affiliates. Like, I'm upfront with it. Like, I tell people,
exactly.
hey, if you buy this thing, I'm gonna make some money. Are you okay with that? Cool. If you're not okay with that, go ahead and just use the main pay. I don't care as long as you get it. I approach it from an authentic, upfront, like complete transparency. These other dudes like a fugazi. So they're like this, they're tricking you like, hey, here's this, like, leave your 9 to 5, work a couple hours a day, couple sales calls, feet on the beach, like all this bullcrap. They're essentially selling people the dream, saying that, hey, look, I made 30K this week with XYZ with high ticket sales. They didn't take one sales call that week, I guarantee you. They didn't take one sales call. All of that was produced from affiliate. They,
Mm,
you know, they posted some content. You somehow landed on their profile on their YouTube. They clicked on the link. They took a sales call, and when they purchased, the person who said they made 30K a week from high ticket sales actually made it from that person signing up to the course. But that's not the issue. The issue is that these people lie through their teeth. They're painting perception that's not true. Hey, man, it's like there's like this other dude, right? Just to give you an abstract example, it's like this dude. He's like, I make multiple seven figures with trading. But then it actually came out like this dude was just ashamed that he was making money with his OnlyFans agency and just wanted to tell a lie that it was actually made with trading.
mm.
So now no one trusts this dude because, you know, he's painting a perception that his money's made in one certain way when really it was made in another. And there's no shame in making money through affiliates, but there's shame in lying to your audience and saying that the money's made X way, but it's actually made Y way. Because then once it comes out, once that video does come out, I'll be surprised if that dude's even making 5K a week.
Yeah. No, no, I'd agree with you on that point. It's like there's nothing wrong with doing affiliate marketing at all. But like you just mentioned, to kind of rehash that point, is they are selling the dream. It's like this. I get my income from high ticket sales. Just, post personal branding content and I make, 5K a week from like high ticket sales. It's like, no, you don't. Not at all. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that briefly because that's been something we've been talking about that's a recurring theme in the space and it's starting to become more popular. And it is annoying when you do see people that are just advertising
Yeah.
this false narrative that it is easy and that it is straightforward.
Yeah.
That's why I've tried to stay away from that content across the board because
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
just not like what we've seen the industry to be for like such a long time.
Yeah.
Such a
And
long
it's
time.
funny. I want to touch on that a bit because the case study you just did before, Hudson,
Mm,
I started seeing his content And I was
Mm,
like, oh, here we go, another one of these fucking affiliate dudes. Because that was and he actually, I was actually talking with him over voice notes last night, and I
yeah.
was like, man, I was like, I saw you comment on his stuff. So then
Yeah.
that's what like sort of made me ease off a little bit because I was like, oh, Connor's commenting on his stuff. I don't think he'd be supporting him if he was doing that affiliate bullshit. So I got talking to him in the DMs and then figured out that he's actually in like sales. He's actually
Yeah.
selling something and he's not just one of these affiliate guys. And then he actually reached out, was like, hey man, like how do I approach this? Because I don't want to be seen as one of those dudes. And like we obviously went
Yeah.
back and forth. But it's funny that we're talking about this because Hudson, who was your previous case study,
Mm.
someone I was suspect on. I was like, because his content is like pretty much picture perfect, exactly how they're doing it. And he's like, nah, I don't want to be known as that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I can understand that. It's it's a tricky line to walk between. But the thing is, for the vast majority, from what I've seen, and this is the really hard thing with the online space, is because people are faking things more than ever. It's more inauthentic than ever. These guys are just talking all this just BS about how to make money online and all that type of stuff. Like it's incredibly difficult to see what's
Hmm,
real and what's not. Like the trust in our industry is so low, like so low. Nobody trusts
yeah,
anybody anymore because, and rightly so, because as you would know, a lot of the coaching programs out there that help you with this stuff aren't fantastic.
yeah.
They're not
But
very
just
good.
to add to your point here, like we obviously won't mention names specifically,
No, no,
but
no.
someone that I affiliate for, right? And then one of these like coaching programs who are essentially all about, getting the right skills and, becoming, really good salesperson. And that's how you land roles. This thing that I'm affiliating with, said coaching program are coming to said thing that I'm affiliating for, looking for roles. So it just goes to show you that it's not all about skill
Mm,
because these people have a really high level of skill, yet the offers that they're on are questionable. And they're coming to that, like they're coming to me to chat about, different stuff. So it just goes to show that, you can have skills are important, but it's not the only thing. You need to take into account networking, which is kind of covers both.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like I mentioned, I don't like throwing shade in any particular direction or naming people like
Yeah.
some other people do. But yeah, like this was the lie that I felt and that it was my truth for years, and then I kind of had my truth broken in front of my eyes because I'd spent $40,000 on sales training. And I'm like, well, I know that I'm good. Everybody else on the team that I'm training with tells me that I'm good, and these guys make a lot of money, and they are really good as well. And it took me, after spending that amount of money, to have realized that it wasn't actually my sales skills, it was the offer. And
Mm.
there is a lot of people that again talk about the prioritization of sales training and skills. Yes, obviously selling and getting good at the skill itself is important. And some people don't balance either or, but yeah, I think it's becoming more important than ever that you have, especially as a beginner, because like that particular person that we're kind of talking about is very focused towards people who are already in the industry, who've
Yeah.
already know what high ticket sales is, who've already been around for a while, and they've learned all the basics. Maybe they've had a couple offers, maybe they've been in the industry for 6 months to a year. I help beginners, like people who have no idea what high ticket sales is. They want to get their first start. They want to hit their first 10K a month. They don't know how. They don't know how to navigate the industry. Like that's the whole purpose of it, because, like I mentioned, sales training is a big part of it. But like in the future, if you don't have a personal brand, if you don't have a good network, if you don't have connections, you are cooked. Like
Mm.
genuinely cooked in the industry. You're not
Yeah.
going to get good roles. And the difference between good roles is Shay's a great example. Made decent income the second month with his other offer, and then 10K a month commissions from, this big one. And you can attest to, on the offer that you're on, it's a pretty decent offer, I would say.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, guys, is that that level of income was produced on very limited call volume.
Mm,
Like there were like 2 or 3 days where I didn't have anything because they're like it's they have a history. This person has a history of creating really good offers. However, this person just exited a company recently, so this is a new offer. It's still finding its teeth. Like I'm literally the only closer on it, and I'm pretty sure I can't say like, but I'm pretty sure that someone from the RSA will soon be my setter on
potentially,
this because
yes.
potentially
Yes.
like this person, like I had someone reach out to me on the DMs being like, "Hey man, like how do I do the interview, blah blah blah," and he's from the RSA as well. So like I'm the only person. I'm essentially a full cycle sales person. What that means is that I'm doing outbound dialing, I'm doing Instagram DMs, and I'm taking the closing calls. Most people in like the roles that they are when you're a closer, you just take the calls and you have the setter doing the triaging or the DMs and that stuff. I'm doing everything at the moment. So like my time allocation is very important. So just imagine the level of income I'm going to be producing once we get a setter in place, once the call volume starts to ramp. Like now I'm starting to take more calls, like somewhere between 5 to 8 calls per day because the marketing and everything's ramping up. But the
Nice.
last month I was there were days where I was having like 2 calls, or days where I was having like 3, 5 calls. And there were multiple back-to-back days where I was having 0 calls. So now once the consistency of call volume picks up, and then I get more comfortable in the offer, just from the core offer alone, I see myself having like a 15K month this month. Because the thing is with this is that it's not traditional where it's like, okay, you just have this 5K or 8K thing. There's a software I can sell in a group setting where I can get on a group call with like 100 people and sell that to them and then produce MRR off the back of that monthly a couple $1,000 monthly recurring revenue as a sales rep. And I can sell that in the group setting. There's masterminds I can sell ranging from anywhere from 5K for a day event. There is the core offering that I sell, which is like obviously high ticket, like around that 10K mark. There's a 25K, 50K, and 100K thing I can sell. So there's a bunch of different avenues. Now you got obviously there's not going to be like those high ticket stuff to sell every single day, but that's just to speak to the level of opportunities I have at my fingertips to produce income for myself as a closer.
Yeah, which is insane. And without like name dropping who it is, but like, can you explain like what is for those of you that I guess are very new to sales, like just to kind of get full context, who do you help? What does your service do? Like that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
So essentially, it's for people who need help creating their own offers. So it's for online entrepreneurs, just quite broad. Anyone that's making money online. Typically, it's people that have tried to create their own offer, tried to start their own business, but they've failed in the past because their offer wasn't that good. Or maybe they didn't fail, they just weren't able to reach the level that they thought they would have expected with the level of effort that they applied. Or you have people that have like a really good core offer, already making millions of dollars a year. Now they're looking to introduce a high ticket back end offer, to develop out that ascension ladder. There's also a bunch of people who have these ideas in their head, yet they haven't actioned on it. They need help bringing the ideas in their head into fruition, into a real business. There's a different. I've already mapped out the different avatars based on all the calls I've taken so far. But yeah, those are the main ones. And then you just have people like the 20, 30, 40K per month mark with their offer. They're looking to make some optimizations to it so they can get to 100, 200, 300K. So those are like the main ones that I've seen so far. The ones that are the difficult to deal with, most difficult to deal with, because they're so like wishy-washy, are the people that just like have the ideas, but they haven't
Yeah.
actioned on anything.
Yeah. I noticed that particularly like when I first started out selling, I worked with my mentor on an offer selling very similar type product and service.
Mhm.
And it was the guys going from, 0 to 10K a month where they've got this idea in their mind. They're kind of sure, they're not too sure. They want to start
Yeah,
this business, that business, but there's no solid proof of concept, basically. And
yeah,
you're also doubting in your mind on whether or not you can help them or not because it's such a
yeah,
mindset type thing as well. It's like it's a little bit difficult to sell with those types of people.
yeah. You really have to pour into these guys and like slap them about a little bit. You got to pour into them and like, because their self-confidence is shot,
Mm,
especially if they've tried a few things in the past and failed.
mm.
Now what they're going to try another business and fail another business. So you really have to like pour into these people and make them and like build up their self-confidence, their self-image, make them realize that it is possible with the right tools, with the right information, with the right execution. You just have to like put the responsibility in their hands that like, this can definitely work. Like something I constantly get, like people always ask, because there's no guarantee on the offer. So the way I always handle it, which has like gotten me a few sales, is like, yeah, there's a guarantee. The guarantee is that we'll be there every day you have questions, give you the coaching, we'll give you the information. So there's a guarantee. We'll give you all that stuff, but that's only 50% of it. Doesn't matter how good the blueprint is. Like you still have to do the work. Can you meet us halfway and action on the things that you need to action on in order to get the result? Are you that type of person that does X, Y, Z? And that's just to speak to like that one typically works for those types of people because they've tried a lot of stuff and failed in the past. So you really need to like build them up like in terms of their confidence that if they just have the action plan and they action on it, that they will get the result.
Mm. That's a nice, pretty straightforward one. I like the death and taxes
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that one's good as well.
Yeah. But you guys can probably obviously see that, Shay and I have been around this industry for a long time. I've been in a lot longer than Shay, as far as I'm aware. I mean, because like you didn't sell anything besides Sales Sniper, yeah?
After that, I essentially just went back to like half-assedly doing agency stuff. Hit the odd 10K, 15K a month here and there, go back down to 1, 2K. Oh shit, I'm running out of money. Let's go back to 10K. Oh, let's coast, let's relax. That was really what it was like from that point up until the start of last year.
That's the normal agency cycle. That's typically how it goes. But what from what you've seen from like an unbiased opinion, obviously not me, not coming from me, but what what has it been like being in the community itself, like with the guys inside the RSA? Like, have you connected with people? Have you made some good quality connections? Like, what has your general feedback been like for a lot of the guys that you meet in there?
Yeah, so like I've connected with a few like young up and comers, like 'cause I sort of poured into them. I see they're hungry, I see they're really trying. So like I'd say I'm a little bit further ahead because they're like brand new into the make money online space. I've obviously
Mm.
been around this space for 4 years. So if I see like a young, hungry dude who's like really applying himself, I feel inclined to like just, jump on a call with him. And I jumped on a call with a few people. Like I think what's his name? Gia. I jumped on a call
Hmm.
with him.
Yeah.
Cedric, jumped on a call with him, did some role playing, gave him some source. So like, there's been a few people I've jumped on a call with. And just in terms like people say like community, and then you get into the community, it's just people taking, no one giving. It's not really a community because a community is like you look out for one another and like it's like a give take relationship where you just give to each other. This is a genuine community. When you get into RSA, like people are so willing to like hop on calls with you, so willing to help you. As long as you're like actually doing the work, if you're the type of person who just takes and doesn't give any value exchange, then you might struggle. Because I mean, that's just in anything, not just RSA. But the community aspect of this is top notch, and people go out of the way to help you. And when you ask a question in the group, you'll get it answered. It might not be from Connor all the time. It will probably be from someone who's making 10, 15, 20K a month already in the offer. And they like people like what's his name? I think Jack Ormond or something
Hmm.
like that. People like him, like just dropping source in the community. Like he doesn't need to do that, but because it's actually a good community, he's obviously willing to do that. But doesn't want to hold all the cards to his chest. Wants to help the young, hungry up and comers, get their piece of the pie as well.
You've invested in quite a bit of training in the past, right? You've been in a circle which was
Yeah.
20 grand Australian at the time when you
I
bought
was
it,
more
maybe?
than 20 gain Australian. I was on a payment plan. It was like 15K US, something like that. 50,
Okay.
maybe even, I think maybe even 16K US. So
Bit
it's
more.
like 25, 26, maybe even 28 Australian around
Wow.
there.
Okay.
Maybe like 25 Australian, somewhere around that mark.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I paid 20, I believe, 20 to 21, probably around that range.
I think
We
you
got it
paid
at a good
paid
time.
you paid in full though, yeah?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that
why
was
yours was a little bit less. You paid it in full. I got it on a payment plan. We weren't at that level of income to be piffing 15K yet.
that was a scary time though, man. I was sleeping
Yeah.
on an inflatable mattress in at the time a stranger's apartment that deflated every night. So I was practically homeless. I didn't have a place to actually live. Was on the
Hmm.
streets, but yeah, that's when I put I think I had like 30K in savings at that point, and I just slapped down 20K, and I was like, I think it's time. I think it's time. And
Yeah.
that's when I talked to Marco Cortezi, for a bit of reference for those of the guys that are listening. And I was just like send him a text, and I was like, I know how much it is, man. Like, let me just buy it. But that wasn't
Mhm.
the reason I brought this up. The reason I brought this up was because you've invested in quite a bit of training, right? Sales training and other different agency courses and things like that. Like in comparison, like what have you found like community wise to like being in there and like different other communities in RSA?
So I was never really big. I was never really big on communities and other programs. So it's hard for me to say. Like I would just
Mm.
join and like I would never really feel. I'd never really feel the need to give to anyone else in the community. Whereas I think there's a shift in this community. I actually feel obliged to when I am on school to help out a few other guys. I just feel like the need to. And the other ones, I never really felt like that. It was mostly just like, oh, like I have questions, gonna ask, post it in the group, and then get my questions answered. So I guess the main thing is that you've created like a culture of giving in this
Yeah.
community, and you've structured it that way. And that's probably why I feel obliged to like help a few people out when I am in the community because that's the way you built it. Would I be correct in saying that?
You would be. And that's what I've tried to build, like the community that I wish that I had when I first got started because you know who I my first mentor and how I got in the industry and wasn't very
Yeah.
good. The community's got probably 500 people in it, and I would probably know there's like four people, five people, including me, that are actually still in the industry. So
Mm,
that'll tell you all you need to know. But it was pretty isolating experience. Like there wasn't anybody that was actually doing what I wanted to do. People weren't as serious as I was with the pursuit, but all the people that join the community are serious, are committed, do want it badly. Like I talk about this all in mentality attitude all the time and wanting to go all in, which is exactly the mentality that you brought, which I think has actually significantly impacted your success. Because when you were just like, cool, I'm cutting all ties, I'm going all in. I think
mm,
my strategy and the community things like that helped, but I think as I talk about pretty often, it's like when you go all in and you've got your back against the wall and there's nothing else that you can do, this is the only way that you have to go, you generally do make it work. And I think
yeah.
the universe rewards courage. I think I said that to you a long time ago, perhaps. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've been in the same situation like yourself where I had 3 months of savings left. Otherwise, I would have been dead broke. So it's like, I get what you're saying for sure.
100%. And I think now something I've noticed is that, man, I'd literally get down to my last $30 and I'd start scheming on ways I was going to spend it. Like, okay, I can get like this much KFC, this much McDonald's, or this much. Now, when I start getting down to like a couple thousand, like my last couple thousand, for example, I guess my standard has increased in terms of like where that panic button is.
Yep.
And I want to get to a point where it's like, shit, there's only 50K in my account. Fuck. I got to start working. Because in past times, it was at like, you know, zero. It's just like, okay, I'm at zero. Let's go up now. Whereas now
Yeah.
it's like, I hit that point when I had like $3,000 in my account. I was like, I need to start selling more. I need to start selling more. So one other thing I want to touch on is something, something I learned from Connor which I have internalized. And I know I've internalized it because I didn't actually bring it up and I didn't even realize I was doing it. I had a few people tell me. I had my little brother tell me, which he's on this come up. If you watch a lot of YouTube videos, you probably know who he is. Shout out to Jackson. So something I've noticed Connor do really well that has propelled him further in terms of his journey and his success is Connor is super good at building relationships with people in terms of like networking with people who might be able to. So, say for example, he sells a complimentary service, and something I've noticed with him is that he's able to form relationships with someone who sells a complimentary service to the same types of people, and then he's able to form a relationship with them that allows him to, you know, essentially get to promote. to their audience as well without taking away from that. So
Yeah.
something that I've internalized, not necessarily in terms of selling products, but there was someone on Twitter who I formed a relationship with, and that allowed me to get to my first 1,000 followers on Twitter pretty quickly because I internalized what I'd learned from Connor and what I had witnessed from him. And now I'm doing the same thing with one of the same guys who's like one of the biggest guys on Money Twitter when it comes to sales stuff. I'm
Mm,
doing the same thing with him. Now, it's not intentionally where it's just pure financial. I'm just like looking to do it because I actually genuinely like the guy. I've been subbed to his newsletter for over a year and a half. And now I've
mm.
just actually executed on a few things that's allowing me to build what will soon be a fruitful relationship moving forward. And that's something I've witnessed from Connor that he does super well is that outside of the sales skill stuff, you need to become good at realizing where you can provide value to someone, no matter how ultra level, like ultra wealthy they are. Everyone has something that they need. And if you can figure out what that thing is that they need, don't go being a weirdo, being like, hey, man, I just want to provide value to you. Like, how can I provide value? Because you're asking them for their time. You're asking them for to come up. What you want to do is you want to realize areas of value. And that might take that might not be overnight. That might be like a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year play where you're just waiting, you're waiting, and then boom, it comes to you, and then you action on it. Because that's what happened with this situation. I saw something, and the thing is that I was already subconsciously doing it, but then I came conscious of it. I was like, oh, all right, let's do this.
Mm.
So if there's something that can propel you further in terms of landing some of the best roles or just making money outside of what you're already doing, look for areas where you can provide value to someone. I know that's pretty broad, like value, what is value? Just look
Yeah.
at someone who's far ahead that has something that you might want in the future or something that you need now, and look at things that they may need and look at how you can provide that to them without having to ask them what that thing is. You have to get good at studying people and figuring out where they need help the most, and then give that thing to them or make a connection with them and someone else that you know.
I think that's a great observation. And a tip for a lot of the guys that are watching is that the reason why I'm able to hang out in rooms with guys that do, I had a guy lunch with a guy that does 1.5 million a month. To you guys, to what you're probably hearing that might blow your mind. That might be insane. Uh, but it's something that you get used to over time, especially when you've been in the make money online space for a long time. But 1.5 million a month to 350,000 a month to guys that have sold their businesses for multi seven figures to guys that have done 20, $30 million online. How you get in those circles, it's just by simply not acting like a weirdo and adding value. And by acting like a weirdo, I think one of my mentors, Jeremy, talked about the situation where he met The Rock. I'm not sure if you heard of this story, but
Yeah,
he
I
met The
heard the story.
Rock, and instead of acting like a fangirl and just being like, "Oh my God, you're The Rock," blah blah blah, a very neutral, dampened conversation, and he approached and talked to The Rock as if he was a normal guy, and that's the same thing that I've done for years, talking to people that are significantly further than me, significantly more wealthier, significantly more successful. The more you understand that these people are just people, whether or not there's someone who's doing 1 million a month might be insane to you, or $100,000 a month, or even $10,000 a month, right? That you watching right now, you might think that is insane, and that may very well be insane and crazy for where you're at in your journey. What I would be thinking is, how can I get close to this person? How can I add value? How can I not be a widow? In like what Shay just said as well, as just being like, oh, hey, how can I add value, man? Just like it's super strange when you approach the relationship like that. It's just something that I've naturally kind of picked up over the years. And now that you're kind of highlighting that, I do think about how I just naturally do that. I think I just naturally like to connect with people, and I've always had the mindset of never making an ask, like ever. And
Mm.
when you naturally do that with enough people over a time duration, your payoff is exponential, and you can get a lot of, I guess, bear a lot of fruit from getting some great relationships. As you found, one of the guys that the guy that you got a job through was someone that I just connected with.
Yeah. And think of it this way as well. You obviously went out of your way to help me land that job, but now said person Well, one, it's probably furthered our relationship because I made you look good because I came on the roll and I crushed it.
Absolutely.
Now,
Yep.
how fruitful of a relationship do you think you have between yourself and this OG offer owner who's a G?
Mm.
How good of the relationship do you think you guys are going to have moving forward now that you actually referred him someone who's hungry, getting after it?
Very good. Because, and also something to look at as well. Like a lot of people go, oh, why don't you charge placement for reps? It's like, well, I don't need to. I don't need the
Hmm.
money. And if my guys can get a great job, then sick. That's great. Like that's very, very cool. I'm not going to charge for that. But it's also on top of that, I didn't charge money for that either. And typically people can charge 3, 4, 5, 10 grand to place a sales rep. So it's like that's always a mindset that I've had of just always giving, 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 and never really making that ask. And you'll find it'll always come back. I think I heard a quote from Tony Robbins many, many years ago, and he said something along the lines of, you never have to worry about giving away something, giving value, or doing a favor for somebody because you always know that they'll come back. And that's like
Yeah.
a key principle that I've had at the back of my mind for years. Whereas like doesn't matter that I'm working my face off or, to help people or do this or go out of my way to do things for other people because I know that eventually through some way, some form, it'll always eventually end up coming back to me. And that's why ultimately I'll be successful. It's the reason that you'll be successful because you can wait for that payoff. But most people are so short-minded and short-term thinking. They
Hmm.
have to get things now, 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 and they can't wait the months and the years that it takes to really get the payback they need and have that lack of long-term delayed gratification.
And that's what I want to add as well. Something you mentioned before about like authenticity in this industry and how like
Mm.
trust is really shot. That's why I
Yeah.
think that's why I think when I say something on my Instagram story, like so if I say buy this, people buy it in droves. Why do they do that? Because on my YouTube channel, like I'm very straight up. I share the wins, but also share the losses, the breakup, the fact that I have $0. I'm willing to share like bar things that might put me in prison. I'm willing to share most. I'm willing to share everything with people, and people can appreciate that because there's not much of that. People just like they're managing the perception, which is okay. It might be important to do that if you have like some info product and you want to drive sales and paint a vision that's not true. Whether that's the way you want to build your business, that's up to you. But the way we've gone about doing it is very like straightforward, like very little. Like obviously you have some with like little bits of edits, but we literally just like, okay, screen flow open or whatever you use, talk to the camera for 20 minutes, cut out the intro, cut out the outro so that it starts at the start and it finishes at the end, and then post. Very like, I'm not sure if that's how you're still doing it moving forward, but we literally just talk to the camera like we're talking to a mate, and then we click stop, post it. And then I get a bunch of people like, oh man, I love how authentic your YouTube stuff is. I love how real you are. I love how you share this and that. I'm sure you probably get a bunch of that as well. And that's because how it just shows the little level of trust that people have these days that when we just do something that's normal to us, that people are reaching out, being like, "Oh, dude, I love your authenticity, blah blah blah."
Yeah. No, I mean that's what I do with the YouTube channel for like 10 or 11 months, 3 YouTube videos a week, just
Yeah.
yapping, basically.
Yeah.
Just
And you
talk, just
stuck to that schedule, by the way, because we spoke about
mm,
YouTube. I didn't. I said that I was going to continue because that was when I was doing the cold email stuff. I think
mm,
you had just posted one video. I think I'd posted like maybe 8 videos. And we had a discussion. You're like, yeah, dude, I'm going to stick to 3 a week or 2 a week, whatever it was. And you did. You did stick to that cadence. So props to you, bro. Man of your word.
I appreciate it, man. And that's a massive takeaway people can take away as well. It's like the consistency. Like I only have at the time of this recording like 1,200 subscribers, something like that, and I've been posting for close to a year now. So it's like that's where things are at now. But so many people in making money online or any business model just can't. It comes back to that long-term delayed gratification. Like people can't do the same thing for a certain period of time and fail a bunch of times and mess up and get on a bad offer and do the wrong thing and so on and so on. And they just give up. Like that's just how it happens. Whereas like if you can just focus on the inputs and making sure that they are the right inputs, so it's making sure that you're in the RSA and you have the right strategy and you know what to do, as long as you do that for a long enough period of duration of time, it's inevitable that you'll be successful. But
Yeah.
so many people kick the bucket day 30, day 60, day 90, whether or not you're working with me or any other guy, it's always taking the responsibility of like, I will do the same thing over and over again until it will work. But
Yeah.
very few people can actually make it to that point.
You can't lose if you don't quit.
Exactly right. 100% agree.
But the caveat is that you're actioning throughout that period. Like you can't just like not do anything for 50 years and expect to win. Like you got to be actioning throughout that. But as long as you're eating shit, you're iterating, you just continue to action throughout that period, just it'll be inevitable. The thing is, you'll never the level of success that you have in your mind, this goal that you want to attain, you'll never get there on the time frames you think.
Mm,
See, people always have these time frames that's going to be the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. But Alex Hormozy said if you just extended your time horizons, you'd be much more likely to like actually make that goal a reality. But people are just in a rush.
exactly. Macro thinking versus micro.
Yeah.
And to kind of tie things off, because I don't want to make this too long, what from what you've seen, like you've been in the industry for a while now, you've seen the top of the top of training programs, you've been everything all inclusive. I mean, it might sound obvious, but I do want to ask you the question. How likely are you to like recommend the RSA to people that might be watching the YouTube channel?
So people who watch my YouTube channel, they always ask me, and I always tell them, I mean, I already do. Like, how likely am I? Like, 10 times out of 10.
Mm,
And I always upfront. Look, I've taken this program, which costs a lot. I've taken Connor's program. I've taken this program and that program. And I asked him, like, where are you at? Oh, I'm like complete zero. I've never made money online. Oh, like no brainer. What I did, like I had some, so my neighbor, hopefully my ex isn't watching this, but my neighbor, her name is redacted. So this is my neighbor from when I was living on the Gold Coast.
yeah.
The moment she found out that obviously we broke up, like me and my ex broke up, she like reached out being like, hey, did you and your ex break up? And then we obviously like spoke a little bit over DMs here and there. She's talking about how like these goals that she had and how she hates her job and so forth. And I sent her like literally my neighbor. I sent her Connor's YouTube channel. And then 2 weeks later, she sent me like a screenshot of her in her apartment sitting on the couch watching Connor's YouTube videos. So the indoctrination's already began. That was my neighbor, like some chick who like I think she's a nurse. So
Mm,
she's a nurse. She doesn't ever make money online. So I kind of just asked how likely I am to recommend it. Very likely. I literally recommended it to a neighbor. Like I didn't really even talk to her much, but I think somehow she had me on Instagram. And then I don't know chicks. They're psychics. They're FBI investigators. But anyways, I literally sent it over to her, and I was
mm,
like, hey, just watch through some YouTube videos, get an idea as to what he actually does, and then if that's something that interests you from watching the video, because I know how good Connor's content is. Anyone
mm.
that sits through like a couple hours of content, they're gonna buy eventually. So I just said, look, go over to his YouTube channel, watch some videos, and actually, buy it if that's something you want to do. So how likely am I to recommend it? Well, I 10 times out of 10 if it makes sense because I already am doing it. And I've already
Mm.
like spoken to multiple people over voice notes and Instagram talking about RSA.
I love it, man. And for somebody who's kind of sitting on the fence right now, maybe they've been watching the YouTube channel for a while, maybe they're unsure of like if making money online is possible, really whatever it is. Like what would you say to someone who's just kind of sitting on the line?
To someone that's sitting on the line is that I only saw drastic changes and drastic results in my life when I realized I had a set of balls between my legs and that I needed to draw a line in the sand and truly make the change. Now that's for the guys, right? Because not everyone watching this channel is a guy,
Yeah, of
but for
course.
the ladies, okay? The moment you draw the line in the sand and you actually make that commitment and that change mentally, until you make that point, you'll continue to get subpar results, half in, half out types. Once you do make that full change to commit, and actually get the training, because I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people they've never invested over $1,000, $500 in themselves. They might have the most they've probably invested is like in a gym membership, maybe an investment. It's not even an investment, but going on a holiday. That's probably the most that they've invested. They've never really invested any amount of money in themselves. It might not pay you back the day you pay it, the training that you get, but anything that I've invested in, whether it was objectively good or bad, has always paid off some way, somehow. Like there's been a bunch of stuff that I've purchased that wasn't good at that point in time, but then 2 years, 3 years down the line, I've actually used some of that stuff and has actually helped me make money. So just be willing to actually invest in yourself and get the skills, get the training. And as long as you action, I don't see, and you don't quit. If you action every day and you don't quit and you expand your horizons, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't experience the level of success that you're looking for. So that's what I'd say to the people on the line. For the ladies, that's the message. You get a more eloquent message. The fellas, you have a set, draw the line in the sand. Let's get to work.
I love it, man. I love it, man. And if there's a final note, if you're like, if you were speaking to someone, I guess a younger version of yourself, or just a one kind of key takeaway or a bit of value you want to share with somebody, is there any final notes you want to finish today on?
My advice, so I'd be speaking to the types of people who align with like my types of mindset, my type of values. Constantly be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And if you ever find yourself to where you're like, things are super cozy, super comfortable, everything's perfect, fucking put yourself in a situation to where you're in the complete polar opposite of that, because comfort breeds mediocrity, and that's what it did to me for 4 years. And I have nothing bad to say about the relationship that I was in, but the reality of the situation is that if I was single, I probably wouldn't have been as comfortable. Therefore, I would have been much, much, much more likely to be actioning on the shit that I need to do on a daily basis. And that's what I've been doing while I've been over here. Because like outside of the work, what else is there to do? Yeah, what, go chase some Latinas in the club over here. That's fun. That's just easy because like especially as being a foreigner over here, it's just the making money stuff's the actual fun, the fun part of it for me. So what I would say is just go out of your way to put yourself in uncomfortable situations if you find yourself getting too comfortable. That could be buying the program, that could be moving to the other side of the world, that could be, you know, your other half's not bringing the best version of yourself out. So splitting up and making the decision that, you know, you need to go level up, whatever that is for you, just be willing to go out of your way to make yourself uncomfortable. And I promise you the things that come after you actually draw that line in the sand and put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. If you continue to action with a lot more intensity, a lot more energy on the things that you need to be doing, you will see hockey stick. Like, yeah, keep in mind, guys, I've only made that decision 5 weeks ago, really, to like truly draw that line in the sand. So I don't even think I'm anywhere near my hockey stick growth, and I'm sure we can do an updated video in the future with Connor once, you know, a year in.
Might be an in-person potty for sure. I think
A hundred
that'll be
percent.
a deserved
Whenever
occasion.
you come to this side of the world,
Yeah, 100%. So unpredictable,
but
but
whenever I come
that's
to your side of the world, which might be on the cards, depending on the time horizons of where I'll reach my goals.
it's very true. It's very true. And I mean to add what you were saying before, the most things or the most desirable things that you want in life are on the other side of uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable things, being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
That's where the true magic happens. And if you're not going to back yourself, nobody else will. And you have to ask yourself the question, what's more risky, staying in the situation that you're in right now? Maybe it's not good, maybe it's not where you want to be. If it isn't, what's more risky? Taking a leap of faith or doing something different?
yeah.
Something that I'd
And
like to end on.
and people always say like, "Oh, I'm gonna be okay. Things won't be that bad." Well, what is that? What is okay? What is that bad? Like
Mm,
a 5 out of 10 reality? Are you okay with living a 5 out of 10 reality? Are you
mm.
okay with your kids that you have in the future living a 5 out of 10 reality? Really sit in that, really bathe in that. If that's the reality you're okay with, well, maybe RSA is not for you. If you want the finer things in life, if you want to be able to provide, you know, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 experiences, then you know what you need to do. You need to make a change. You need to stop being comfortable and you need to draw that line in the sand.
Question is, are you willing to settle? Basically. Absolutely. So sweet guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little case study interview. Shay's crushing it. Super excited to where you're going to be in the next couple of months, next year, man. It's only April of 2023, the time we're recording this. So thanks for coming on. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.